Your supervisor or manager comes to you very nicely and asks you if you can tone down the religious jewelry and the articles in your cubicle or in your office or what you're wearing because it's making your fellow employees uncomfortable. What would you do? Adam, would you like to begin?
I think we have to compromise in the end, because if we're working for a civil employee, I happen to work for the church, so I'm kind of a different situation. There's civil laws still apply in the workplace, but if I'm working at a neutral place, like working for the government again, which I've done in the past, I think we have to compromise, because if I want to draw a line in the sand and say, no, I'm absolutely standing on, I have the right to do this or wear this clothing or such and such, even though this person is saying, and maybe they seem to be sincere, that they, find that offensive and it's interfering with their work.
Right.
Because if I do that, I then have to accept it if somebody else joins our company 6 months from now and is doing something, that's very offensive and hurtful to me.
Gotcha.
I can't have my cake and eat it too.
Well, it kind of sounds like what the comment we've gotten from X, it's Shaunovision, says, if I was told to tone it down, I would tone it down. My cubicle doesn't need to look like a shrine. But if I was told to eliminate religious symbols, I would refuse. So that's kind of like what you're saying, is to tone it down and, to just get along with everybody in your workplace. I sat in a lot of first interviews for years, where the place that I worked at. And I was part of the human resources department. And I will tell you, I really very much respected those that came in for first interviews when they would sit down and they would say, listen, if you want to hire me based on my talents and gifts and the things I can bring to this company, I really want to be a team player. But I just want to let you know, I am Catholic, I do wear a crucifix, and I don't work on Sundays. And they would say that right up front. And it's interesting because the interviewing panel would say, oh, that's okay. That's cool. We love that. Because it shows they have a lot of, discipline and maybe a higher standard of, of what they're going to adhere to by way of doing the right thing and all that kind of, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's very helpful to do. Now, it is a little bit of a gamble, a little bit of a risk, because, you put it right out there that you're a devout Catholic. They may go, we don't want this person. And that could be that way. But, in the long term, do you really want to work for a place that is going to stop your ability to express who you are as a Catholic Christian? I don't think so, because I think eventually you would get sick of it. You'd be tired of it. And I know that it's an opportunity to evangelize. I know us going into the workplace where we go into a place that we're met with people who aren't Catholic. It's a chance for us to evangelize. I get that. But it also can be very draining. Because if you're always going up against people who aren't nice about what you believe, or they make comments or jokes, it can really wear you down. And sometimes it can even hurt your own faith life, because you start to believe all these things that other people are saying. What do you say to all that, Adam?
I think what's super helpful, Deb, and here's where I would go for the next right thing. Try to explore similar situations that have been pushed and where the answer fell.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah, like
You're so logical, Adam.
And if this has been fought in the courts before,
Right.
or if this has been run up the flagpole at your employer, and it, there was a kerfluffle, and you can find some articles about it, and there was some buzz, find out where things landed in the end, and
Right.
then make a decision. Like, okay, well, I've got a very similar situation, and I see the statement on the final decision here. I'm likely to get a similar answer. That might help you make a decision about how far to push things.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a really good point. So you should see what's out there and, what the precedent was and, the results and the outcome. Absolutely.